Hello everybody, this is Kiereek here, and we're here for another review with Terraria for PC. Now this is a great little game, and nowadays it's pretty cheap to pick up on sale, but it's basically an open world mining, battling, crafting game, and you have your set world, you choose the size when you start, and basically you mine for resources, kind of like Minecraft, but it's all 2D. And as you find resources, so let's say the wood at the beginning, you use that wood to build an axe or a pick. And you use that pick to build, or sorry, to mine for more stuff. Then you use that mining materials to build a better pick and weapons, and monsters come and you die. No, I'm just kidding. It's pretty great. And there is a lot of mining involved, but there's also a lot of really great combat. So unlike Minecraft, which is kind of just swinging wildly, you really find some excellent combat here that requires dodging, tactical planning, building, giant bosses flying around, great weapons, exciting, lots of different choices for armor and weapons. I love it. So here's the thing. You have to explore a lot. It can be a pretty big world, not too long to run across at the end of the game, but at the beginning of the game, it feels big, okay? You go too far one way, you might get into a dangerous spot, and that's the end of your guy. Now there's a ton of bosses in it, so you are going to play this for a while. It's pretty great in that regard. Lots of different content. Now, here's the pros. The difficulty increases pretty standardly. So you start in easy mode. After a certain point in the game, it basically triggers hard mode. And from then on, everything is going to be harder. Harder enemies, different enemies in a lot of cases, and different events. To the very culmination of the game at the end, and possibly the hardest point in my opinion. Now, with friends, it's great. You can play it with friends as much as you want, and you're going to want to do that because even though you've beat hard mode, there's a super difficult mode that comes after that. And I'm not kidding, that is not unforgiving. It's unforgiving is the best way to describe it. Now, the enemies in this game are pretty interesting. They're not just the standard copy and paste. In the beginning, you see traditional beginner enemies like slimes, zombies, stuff like that. But as you go on, you'll be fighting pirates, you're fighting aliens, you're fighting ice golems, you're fighting flying swords, devils, all sorts of things. It's incredible the amount of enemies that are in this game, and I'm not just trying to give this a ringing endorsement. I really was entertained the whole way through, and even later on in the game, so a few rare enemies you don't see too often, you get shocked, and it's still a surprise. That's pleasant later on, once you feel like you've seen the game, Now, as far as items, I mentioned there's a lot. So you have your weapons, and weapons basically fall into 4 categories: melee, ranged, magic, and summoner. And you have armors, and armors generally have benefits as well as you get later in the game. Wearing a full suit of armor has a suit benefit as well. So you want to mix and match, choose what you want. I had a really fun time with a lot of the healing armor. It's always great. That's the Spectre one. And earlier on, the bee armor, I don't know, because it looks wonderful. It's fucking fantastic. Now, it's a very good creative outlet, and you won't really get bored with it. So even if you find the different items, like the armor, accessories like wings and stuff like that, you can dye them, change the color. You get to build all sorts of things. We built in our game, my co-op game here, a huge castle. It took forever. It wasn't really me building it. She mostly built it, and I defended it because I'm really more about the combat, less about the building. But you should know the building is very capable. Just Google it, man. Terraria, amazing buildings. You'll see all sorts of stuff. It's incredible. I don't want to steal it and post it in my video. It's not really my content. Now, the crafting is discoverable. So like in Minecraft, there's no way to know, how do I craft this? How do I craft this? You guess, kind of based on the shape. At least when I was playing Minecraft, that's how it was. Nowadays, you can, in Terraria at least, nowadays, you are going to pull up to a crafting station like an anvil or a smelter or something, and when you open the menu, all the things you can make are right there, but only the things that you have the materials for. So you might not discover something for a long time if you don't carry around that combination of materials. But on the other hand, if you just kill the boss and got a whole bunch of special ore, you walk up to the anvil, you see the things that you can make, and that's really nice because I like, with such a huge amount of items, you need to be able to see what you're making, otherwise you'll never find half the stuff. I'm not really I shouldn't say I'm not a guy who goes to look at the wiki, but it's unfortunate when you have to do that. So here's the thing, the co-op is really great. Easy over LAN. You just set up a server, and it's not even a server, you run it in the game. You start the game, you say you're hosting, someone comes and joins you, it's wonderful. Even over like a long distance, you can have an IP, you enter the IP for that server, and the game will remember that. You can keep connecting to that server. That's pretty great in my opinion, easy to co-op, easy to play together, wonderful. Now the battles are fast paced, you've got to move, you can't just sit there. If you plan enough, you can kind of sit there and tank some stuff, but generally you need to know how to control your character, how each enemy works, how they attack, the attack pattern. It's great. Learn it, kill the enemies, and move on to the next guy. It's fast paced, you won't be bored by it. They don't last too long either. If you're doing it wrong, you'll die. Now, here's the cons. It's kind of hard to know what to do next. There is a guy who I really enjoyed killing at one point, but he kind of gives you hints, and that's useful. But there were definitely a few times where it's just like, well, what do I do now? And most of the game is pretty good about that. The beginning is a little rough because you're not really sure when it's going to happen, and a lot of the stuff is kind of random. Like maybe there's a 30% chance the boss will spawn tonight. Well, if you don't know that, and you don't know you've met the requirements, you're kind of just sticking around. And then it happens, and it's like, oops, I died, I wasn't ready at all. But that's fine, it's part of the game, and after you've encountered this boss, if you don't succeed at first, you know he's coming back for you. Now, one of the enemies I really hated was the wraiths. So here's my beef with that. Wraiths travel through ground, and potentially they come up through your castle, through the walls, kill your dudes. One protection against this is to basically make a floating castle so they can't come up through the ground. Now, it seems like that shouldn't be a requirement. It's basically a requirement if you don't want your people to die, but why should we have to do that? Give us something like a wraith-proof block or something. Something I can put in there that's going to keep them out, but don't force my design of a floating castle. I shouldn't have to do that if I don't want to. If I want to build an underground lair, let me have that choice. But unfortunately, that's not really an option. Now, a lot of the weapons feel kind of copied sometimes. I mean, there are many different types, and a lot of them have special abilities, but especially the early weapons, it's kind of just like, oh, this one shoots a beam. Oh, this one also shoots a beam, but it's a different color. Especially with the magic weapons, I felt that was really, really poor. Melee weapons, ranged weapons are a bit better. Summoning weapons are pretty much all different, but magic weapons especially. In the early stages, it felt very repetitive. It gets better as it goes on. Now, some armor and items are clearly a little OP. At the time when I was playing, before the last patch, the Spectre armor was super OP. It would heal you when you use magic. Well, basically, I just spammed things like, that would heal me constantly and didn't require a lot of mana to use, and I constantly stayed at full health. It was pretty great. Now, they did nerf that, so you can't really do that anymore, but at the time, it was kind of OP, and some of the items, too, are a little, it's like I basically have to use those items if I want to compete against the hardest enemies, and that's fine, but it's because it's not competitive, it's not a huge issue. If it were competitive, this would be a bit of a problem. It's just kind of annoying in single player. So that means for the score. Gameplay, great gameplay, it's tight, controls are good. The only grip I have is sometimes the aiming is a little rough. Sometimes it's a little difficult to see what's happening when a lot of shit's going on. But generally, 2.5 out of 3, I think is a pretty good score. Fun game to play, and pretty good control-wise. For the addiction, I gave it kind of a weird score here. 1.7 out of 2. It is highly addicting. You will be back over and over. You can keep playing the game with your same character forever. You can start new characters. But I think once you've reached a certain point, at least with me, because I'm not a creative guy, you basically exhaust the stuff to do. I killed all the bosses. I did everything. Now, I'm not really big on building things, but if you're a builder, I could see how you could keep going. For me, the addiction just wasn't there at the very end. All the way up to the end, great. Just at the very end, not enough to keep me going. Reliability, I've never had a problem. 1 out of 1, perfect reliability. For atmosphere, I give it a 2 out of 2. Great atmosphere, it does keep you afraid. And early on in the game, when it's dark and you need torches to light the way, and you're just going a little bit deeper every time in the hopes you don't run into something that's going to kill you, that's the stuff. That's the stuff that really gets you. And at night especially, stuff's flying around out there. You don't want to get killed. You don't want to die. They do a great job with the music. Music adds to the atmosphere. And really, it feels like survival is real. The fun is real. The action is real. So 2 out of 2 is a great score for Terraria. Finally, replay value. I'd give it a 1 out of 2. Like I was saying before, while you can replay it a lot, you potentially, and you could keep building things, I just don't think that's for everyone. So I'm going to give it a 1 out of 2. Seems fair to me. That means the total score is an 8.2 out of 10. Very great score. I highly recommend this game. It's a must get if you see it on sale. I see it go on sale in Canadian dollars for like $4. So if you live somewhere else like the States, you grab it for $2 or $3 or whatever it is. So grab it, play, get online, use more people, especially because Terraria 2 I think is on the way. And yeah, it's definitely worth getting. Support the developers. They worked really hard to keep bringing us content for so long, even after the game was released. Like the last patch came out last year, and it was pretty wonderful. So thanks for watching, guys. This has been Kiereek with another review and release. So have yourself a nice day, and I'll see you again soon.